Daniel Alexander is a meteorologist by training. He's a co-founder of a company called WeatherAlpha, which is a weather marketing firm. They take historical and predictive models of weather and use it to help companies better market their tools, or their products as well. I find this absolutely fascinating, and no, he's not on television. He gets really pissed if you ask him if he's on television, despite the fact that he's actually exceptionally good looking, so please everyone hit on him later. You're noticing a theme this evening, by the way. He's going to get up here and tell us a little about the more counterintuitive things you would learn about weather, and hopefully you guys learned something. Chat up to people next to you. Feel free to keep this informal. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Daniel Alexander. He has a thirst for weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just have to fix that.
How's that sound? Louder.
Louder.
Hey guys, hey Eric, thank you very much for having me, and thanks again for the flattering remarks. Thank you all for coming out tonight. In spite of the inclement weather, it provides a perfect segue into the topic of my discussion. And weather is something that is totally uncontrollable. It's something without which most people couldn't start a conversation. And it's something that influences each and every one of us. And let's get right into it. The first thing when I tell people that I'm a meteorologist, usually people are surprised by that. And usually their responses fall into a couple of different categories. Eric mentioned one of them, being, are you on TV? The answer to that is no. Most meteorologists are not in broadcasting. Most go into applied meteorology, which is where I'm at. And a lot of people say to me, and I find this kind of insulting, it must be nice to get paid for being wrong half the time. So let me start off the talk by rebuffing that, because weather forecasting has improved, and it's often difficult to convey the uncertainty surrounding weather to the general public. What you see here is a radar image that I grabbed from the Weather Channel, and this is the DC metro area. And as you can see, most of the metro area is not covered by precipitation. However, there is this pretty intense shower and thunderstorm off to the northwest of DC, just to the west of Bethesda. This frequently happens in the summertime because such pop-up showers and thunderstorms are actually very difficult to pinpoint. You know this walking down the street, it just starts downpouring on you. And so the question is, what does a 30% chance of rain really mean? And actually on this afternoon, the forecast was for a 30% chance of rain. Well, actually, the percent chance of rain is a combination of the fraction of computer models or projections that are showing rainfall in the area, combined with the actual aerial coverage that is being shown. So if you are in and around DC, inside of 495, I guess, I don't really know the geography that well, you're not getting rained on, but if you're just west of Bethesda, I'm not sure what town that is, you're pretty much shit out of luck. And it doesn't really matter whether it's a 30% chance of rain or 90% chance of rain. If you're caught in a downpour, it pretty much sucks. I'm going to go through this chart quickly because nobody really likes charts and no one likes Excel charts, but this is something to show that forecast accuracy has actually improved considerably over the last 3, 4, 5 decades. The take-home points from this slide are that the 5-day forecasts of today are actually better than the 3-day forecast from 1980. And furthermore, the 7-day forecasts of today are slightly better than the 5-day forecasts were 3 decades ago. That is attributable to improvements in the science, but also the exponential growth in computing power that we've seen across a host of industries, especially in science. And I feel you, girl. So weather is actually not just news. It's not just that 3-minute spot at the end of your local newscast. Lately, especially this week, it's been headline news. Some examples of this include the awful tornado season that we just had in the southeast and the Midwest. This is a photo from the devastated community of Joplin, Missouri. Also, Mayor Bloomberg faced a real debacle when the sanitation department decided not to plow in the wake of the major blizzard on December 26th of last year. And I found this on the Telegraph, and I thought this was particularly interesting. Officials were actually rooting for rainfall because they knew that it would quell some of the riots that were occurring in and around London. So here we have weather that's not only a destructive force, something that can undermine political careers, but also something that can be used as a peacekeeper. Pretty fascinating. Now, weather also impacts major sectors of the economy, and one of them is agriculture. You see the cornfield on the left, tall, healthy, green stalks, probably the combination of an optimal temperature pattern, precipitation pattern, ample sunshine, whereas the crop on the right has probably been devastated by drought or warm temperature or a combination of both. We certainly had a lot of heat in the Midwest, and the crops were definitely affected. So crop and harvesting is very, very weather sensitive. And it's actually something that people bet a lot of money on. If you know how to predict the weather, you can predict how crops will fare. Furthermore, energy is a very weather-sensitive industry. To you and I walking down the street in DC or in New York City where I reside, the difference between 95 degrees and 96 degrees is probably not that noticeable to you. It may be an extra bead of sweat on your brow, or a quicker curse out of your mouth as you're walking down the street. But to people who operate power plants, to the overall electric grid, that 1 degree difference is very big. It actually means millions of dollars, and it means hundreds of millions of watts of energy. And that's primarily because air conditioning is such an energy-intensive process. When it gets really hot out, everybody turns on the AC. That depletes energy. And typically when there are blackouts, it's because it's very hot out and the grid is very stretched by air conditioning. Now, we also know of weather as a force that can shape history. I decided to include this slide because I felt it was appropriate now that we have a hurricane that's approaching the East Coast, and we're approaching the 6-year anniversary of Katrina's landfall. George W. Bush recently remarked that the most embarrassing moment of his presidency was when Kanye West said that he didn't care about black people. Well, I'm here to say that a Category 5 hurricane doesn't really care about anybody. Now let's get into some of the ways that weather impacts each one of us, our lives. Not just the macro, but what goes on inside our heads, how we feel. Weather has been shown to be very strongly correlated with our mood. On sunny days, we feel happy, more dour on cloudy days, etc. There have been very scientific studies that have proven this correlation. Moreover, weather can be seen, especially the passing of the seasons, I like to think is sort of a metaphor for the transience of life. When we're walking down the street in the wintertime and bracing against the cold, it's 20 degrees out, it just snowed 8 inches, the wind is blowing in our face, we're bundled up as much as we can, but we're still frozen to the bone. It's very hard at those moments to imagine what it's like in the summertime when we're wearing no layers, when it's warm, we have that warm breeze. And the same is true with the landscape. Here is DC in the springtime. Here it is after a snowstorm, and if you recall back to when you were 5 years old, you couldn't imagine what it was like to be 30, and vice versa. But the passage of time happens, and weather has also been shown to impact our relationships. There have been studies that have shown that people are more likely to break up with their significant other on rainy nights. And there have also been studies that have shown that there's an optimal temperature for conception, a certain temperature range, a certain humidity range. I don't know why, but is known to produce the best results. I think it's like 70 degrees and 40% humidity with a lot of sun. I don't know. I read it quickly. But let's get into a bit of how weather impacts our spending behavior, and this is something that myself and my co-founders have been addressing, and that is, if you guys have ever been out there and you've bagged a reservation at the local neighborhood restaurant in favor of delivery, you're the person that we're speaking to. You're what we're talking about. This actually causes when it's raining out, cold, hot. Inclement weather causes people to want to stay in, order delivery at home, The reverse is true for restaurants. When people go out to restaurants, they're more likely to do so on sunny nights, pleasant nights, etc. They stay at home when it's lousy out. And our company, WeatherAlpha, has actually done some analysis for a big food delivery company. And one of the locations that we looked at was Madison, Wisconsin. And as you can see, in the wintertime, snow cover is actually a pretty big predictor of how many food orders will occur that day from the University of Wisconsin. I find this pretty fascinating because, you know, it's not only a very strong relationship, but when there's 10 or more inches, I mean, that is 80% more than when there's no snow on the ground. And that for businesses is a very big number. So what we've created, and this is kind of in the Groupon Living Social vein, is a product called Weather Deal. And a weather deal allows local merchants to get all the benefits of the increased foot traffic, having people go to their restaurant or bar, etc., and try out their product, try out their food, without having all the downside of that big coupon. And the benefit of a weather deal is that it allows these businesses to minimize the risk because margins are actually pretty low in the food industry, while also getting the benefit of the increased traffic on a night when sales would normally be sluggish. And that's the key point of weather deals. So if you want to go online, check out our website. It's WeatherAlpha. Check out weatherdeal.com. Feel free to sign up. And I'm going to close by saying that if you bartenders out there, because there have been studies that have shown that people are more likely to tip on Sunday nights. If you guys want to know how to, maybe get a couple $100 extra bucks in your pocket, see me afterwards. Otherwise, I'll close with this. In this day and age, when we can access virtually every recorded event in human history on our handheld device instantaneously, and as we have a major hurricane approaching the coast, it's refreshing and pretty fascinating that the weather is something that's still very much uncontrollable and to a certain extent unpredictable. So if you'd all raise a toast, let's cheers to weather. Thanks, guys.